You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. It's January the 4th, 2023, and we are live, and we are coming to you from paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. Tamara, I think that's the first time I've said 2023.
I haven't. Like, it's like 2023, and it's like, yeah, I guess it is.
I guess
it's hard to fathom, because I mean, when do you started your journey in 2007, right along the same time as I did, 2007, and now it's 2023. So we've gone from a single digit to a double digit, and we're almost at 2027. So that would mean an exact 20 years of cannabis advocacy.
Yeah, 16 years. That's right.
Exactly. Craziness. That's craziness.
Yeah. But we just keep plugging along,
Yeah.
You know, speaking out, giving people a place to have a voice and be able to say things and spread their word wide, globally, which is what we like to be able to do, and as far as and keep it local as well. So,
absolutely.
But, so how was the holidays?
It's pretty good indeed. Family, kids. It was home, just the three of us. My other kid was sick, so she couldn't come in, and yeah, it was quiet. It was good. Well, besides water in the basement, the furnace, but
yeah. I saw that post. That's right.
Yes. That was Christmas Eve, and getting ripped off for $500 by Airbnb because they don't give you a refund, but they don't tell you that until after you already booked the room. And like they've taken your money, and then you go, okay, well, I don't need it, but you give me $92 back. So yeah, that was that. But overall, it was fun.
Good. Okay. And so what else is new? Well, I first I'll give you an update. We all got together here on Boxing Day. There's about 15. All there's Gail and I and our kids and the grandkids and stepchildren. They're all involved, so
that sounds awesome.
Yeah. So we had a good time. We had a big a lupper, as I like to call it.
Right.
In the middle of the day. So,
yeah.
But so what's new? New and exciting? Anything else?
Yeah, I kind of got a new job.
Kind of got a new job. Gail heard you. She wondered if you got. She said, "What? She got drunk?"
No, I didn't. No, I don't drink. No, there was no drunkenness. No, I kind of got a job thrown at me today, and I'm going to be running a hydroponic center at a garden center, and I'm going to be teaching people how to grow everything from cucumbers and tomatoes to cannabis.
Oh.
So we have 4 legal plants. So I get to run the hydroponic center and pick nutrients and go and revamp it and teach people how to grow legal 4 plants. And I'm going to have 4 plants growing in the store. And yeah, I'm just kind of excited. It was kind of thrown at me, and I went, okay. And it's got benefits and wages that are better than I was getting, and it's kind of right up my alley. So I kind of feel bad because I like my other job too. There was nothing wrong with the jobs that I had. I was enjoying that job, but this is more up my alley, and I get to teach classes and teach people how to grow cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll be, and more than likely in the process, you'll be dealing with patients as well.
Absolutely. And that's, more advocacy for me. And as well, she's also interested in possibly looking at licensing to sell clones and seeds. So that's another avenue that I can help her with as well. So there are a few things, like I said, I wasn't really expecting this. It was kind of thrown into my lap, and it just kind of went, Okay, dokie.
Yeah.
And I'm running with it because, like I said, new year changes, and this is something that I've been doing for 30 years, and it's hydroponic. I haven't done that for a few years, but I mean, it's like riding a bike, right? Just remember
Yeah,
your
yeah,
pH
yeah.
levels, and use your pH meter, and follow your instinct, and the plant will tell you, right? And it's like that with anything, whether it's tomatoes or whether it's cannabis,
Oh yeah.
you have to listen to the plant. And then I can also take like a pesticide course too, and get certification
Ooh.
on some things that they're interested in paying for. So
Yeah. Well, okay. That would give you some certification on that end, even though I would suggest some type of predator bugs or some other method.
that would be my
People who
that's
still
my
use.
first choice always. But in order to be able to like understand what pesticides and stuff we use, like it's not for usage, it's more for just knowledge and education
Yeah.
for myself to
Well,
like have that sort.
there will be people who use it. There will.
Yeah, and to
There
have
will
that, like,
be.
you have to have a certification in British Columbia to even like distribute like Roundup,
Yeah.
because you know what I mean. Because and it's sold behind glass, and you have to actually like have a key to get
Right.
it.
Yeah.
There's
Oh
only so
yeah.
many people that are allowed in the store apparently to distribute it, right? It's the same
Right.
with the veterinarian. They have a veterinarian dispensing licensing that you can get, so you can dispense veterinary deworming and stuff at a pet store. So there's certain people that have taken these courses that are working at this place and that
Mhm.
get certification. So if I want certification for, say, cannabis growing, she would be willing to let me take the online course or whatever I could find, and she would be willing to pay for that too to certify me. So
Good.
that's another thing that I can, look at too.
Yeah, 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 and those certifications, help you along the way on other things.
Right,
Anything on the agricultural end, I would imagine.
right, right, absolutely. So if anybody wants to send me some information on growing hydroponically or any of your tips or anything, I'd be appreciative.
Hey, you can never stop learning. You know,
Never.
you
And that's why
never.
I look at it. Like, it's been a long time. I grew in Rockwell and lava rocks, and we had pumps and reservoirs and all that stuff, but it's been
Right.
a while. So I like, and things have changed. And
Things
again, I'm
have
going to be
changed.
running a
You
hydroponic center, so I need to educate myself in the next couple of weeks
grab
as to
some,
exactly what's needed, right?
grab some YouTube reminder videos
Yeah,
of people that maybe right?
yeah, that's
That,
exactly where I'm heading. I got a lot of friends that I'm sure
yeah,
can send me some tips.
exactly, exactly. Okay, well tonight, Tamara, what we're gonna do, we only usually do this once a year. Yeah, but I think maybe I'm gonna do it twice this year because I think maybe we're gonna do it again next week because there's just so many different names, and
Absolutely.
that's because we're gonna do a review in a year in review. We're gonna hear from some of our past guests. I've created a little uh, pictorial video to go with the audio of those guests when they appeared here on the Pace Radio Show, and download some pictures of them. Plus, to use the pictures that we had available to give them to us for their posts as well. And then I went to the Facebook wall and grabbed some more.
Nothing is safe when Al's around. Nothing is safe.
Yeah, so they'll run, and we'll be able to listen. People watch and stuff like that, and it'd be a good reminder of some of the people and some of the topics that we touched on throughout the year.
We've had a
Oh, Tamara's got a new phone, and there's something to do with the dogs and the wire. She's going to explain it all to you right here. Okay, so here we go. She'll explain it now. So what's going on with
I
this?
go to I go to like turn anything, and then it just kicks me out of here. So same thing. I went to
You,
move the screen so I can so like my top of my head's not cut off, and for some reason it just decides that it's gonna shut the whole damn phone off. So
you said something earlier about the dogs, didn't you?
yeah, but the dogs are all laying there. Nobody moved. That was absolutely me. I can't blame
Yeah,
anybody.
it was you
I
this time.
can't.
Okay.
That was totally me this time.
It happened during the pre-show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was Piper. But yeah, no, I guess it's just don't touch the damn phone. Leave it to where it is. Just don't
Right,
touch it. Just
exactly.
keep your hands away from the damn phone, Tamara.
So what I've done is I've taken anywhere up to 15 minutes of some of the interviews of some of the guests, because you can't squeeze an hour and a half of everybody. You can play every interview, but
Right.
we can take little clippets, and I can put some pictures to them, and you and I can talk a bit before and after about the interviews that we had with our guests throughout the year.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And we've had, like I said, I was saying we've had some really great guests, and we can't fit them all into this show, but we'll try and get to everybody.
Well, yeah. Well, I can only get really, if you allow 10 minutes for each guest,
Oh, we'd have to have a
as an
whole
average,
5,
there's
10
50
shows.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 50 minutes. You gotta allow some talking time, commercial time, all that. So, I think maybe next week we'll do another round of some of the guests, because we cannot fit them all in one show.
No, absolutely not.
Won't do.
Probably
So
won't be able to fit them all in 2 shows.
no, I know. You're completely right there.
Yeah.
No, we can't. So, but in no specific order, other than sort of looking at time wise to do the segments. This way I've set them up, not specifically whether they're the first guest or the last guest or anything in between. But I'm gonna start off first with Ted Smith when he was on our broadcast, and that particular day we were talking about. We've got an update on his health, which we're going to mention. We're going to talk about during this, and that was when the Cannabis Act review was out there, and they were looking for people to submit input in November. Right?
Yep, there was concern about question 5.2 about whether the medical cannabis program was necessary or not, and the way it was worded, and there was quite a concern, and he was quite concerned about and wanted to get the word out, and felt like he was being suppressed, and that his posts were being suppressed, and that people weren't listening too. So I'm not sure where I know that it was done. The 24th of November was the last time for submissions.
21st, yeah, and they're going to be a year and a half before we see anything out of that. So another 18 months. So
yeah. So I mean, but again, there was some real concern about that. So let's listen to have what he had to say, and thank him again for being on our show, and we appreciate all our guests that come on. And
yeah. Okay, I'm going to play that video clip. And it's basically 10 minutes long. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. There we go. All right. What do you say? Time to bring in our guest?
Absolutely. I can't wait to see him.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, it's time to, as I mentioned, our guest tonight is Ted Smith of the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club. Welcome, Ted. How you doing?
Hey, folks. Nice to see you.
How are you, Ted? You're looking kind of, you're looking kind of beardy there. I like it. Looks great.
Yeah, it's a new thing for me, really.
I think it looks great. How you feeling?
Thanks. I'm doing okay these days. I seem to have the rheumatoid arthritis a bit more under control. So
I feel you, bud.
Thanks for asking.
I feel you. I'm a rheumatoid arthritis sister. I feel you.
One of the ironies with me is it hasn't helped out much at all. My main problem is really with my stomach, and what I eat is what's been triggering the arthritis attacks. And so my physical body is fine, and really it almost doesn't matter how much cannabis I consume. In fact, I just did a test on my stomach, and the bacteria levels are so high that I'm not converting the THC, into the bloodstream, or not getting it into the bloodstream. It's all getting eaten up by the bacteria that's dominating my stomach. So, I've got to do a few things to get my tummy working properly so I can get high again and not be feeling like this.
Let's see. Well, why don't we get right to her, Ted? Recent blogs and the Cannabis Digest, Health Canada, and the review that is going on.
Question 5.2 says it all, eh?
Yeah, it's a question that obviously people should stand up and take notice of, because we have seen this in the past. Here's that question, Ted, right there. 5.2 that I brought up on the screen.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's a scary plan that they've really had in place for a long time. Like, coming into legalization, the Canadian Medical Association was looking forward to cannabis being legal so that the doctors would get taken out of the equation. So, if people said that I use cannabis as medicine, the doctor would be like, well, go down the street and, talk to somebody else, and so I know the medical community has been hoping for this day since they've had to deal with medical marijuana in the first place. I know the bureaucracy within Health Canada doesn't want to deal with patients and licenses and stuff anymore. So the bureaucracy wants it. I know that the cannabis industry itself wants this to happen, that they see medical as a loss financially, and a lot of extra time taken answering people's questions and product development and stuff. So there's really, and then there's of course the police associations that want to shut it down. There's really not a lot of groups.
Municipalities.
Municipalities.
Like you were constantly reporting on the reefer reporters, but municipalities complaining about the designated growers and the gardens.
Yeah,
and the numbers,
the smells in the neighborhood, and so there's a lot of people that are like, well, what about Allard? And certainly Allard was an important decision, but that was 8 years ago, and legalization has changed since, and people are allowed to grow their own, and they can buy it down the street. So the arguments of affordability and accessibility aren't really there anymore. The main issue that I see constitutionally that we have is the 10 milligram limit being an arbitrary line in the sand that they've drawn that's far too low. And so I think that there's some constitutional arguments for them to change that. But I could see them wanting to go back to court, because they never really appealed Allard. Like, Allard happened, and then they just like redesigned, went back to the drawing board.
It's still an injunction.
Part of the Allard case included affordability access as well, did it not?
No.
Yeah, it did, but that was before there was like $60 an ounce pot available in stores down the street.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, that was really basically for us to get our grow rates back too, because at that point in time, the MMPR was coming into effect, and they basically wanted us to just send them our, cannabis with cat litter and quit growing. And that's what the whole baseline was for that, because basically they wanted us all to start. And that was the whole point with the affordability, is because what the LPs wanted per gram, none of us could afford. So that was the affordability when it came to Allard, and why that was used as a baseline, because of the fact that growing our own gave us the ability to grow our own. And with the licensed producers, there was no affordability for patients.
Yeah, and I think that's changed enough that the government's ready to go to court if they're challenged to do so.
Well, what's the average price at a store for a gram of cannabis? Is it?
Oh, it's cheap.
Is it?
Yeah, it's going down all the time.
All the time, and the quality's getting better and better. Like I said, I hate to say that, but I mean, for me, I've got access down the block. There's a store on every corner. For me to drive out to the res, which is an hour drive out there to get the medical things that I can make myself, because I have the ability to do that, where a lot of people don't. A lot of people are just using the stores, and the affordability. I can go and buy an ounce of weed for $100 out of the store, but Broken Coast's weed out of their ounces are still $191.99 plus tax. And there's another LP that just came out with one that's I'm not buying it. It's a 219.
How long will that last? Like, we've seen patients over the years where they've gotten into a certain strain, and some of them are children dealing with epilepsy. One in particular that I'm thinking about, that had a strain that was good, and all of a sudden found out that the licensed producer stopped producing.
That happens too.
Yeah. Now,
then that's why people have wanted to have the ability to grow their own, because
Grow
they
their
never
own.
have to lose that strain, right? So why would you what like it's again, even with the 4 plant, we know that's not enough for extraction. We know that the reason why why people still access the ACMPR is because they need higher plant count than 4.
One of the things that I know here that we've always talked about is patient access and people to get access to, their medicine. And compassion clubs have always been the backbone. They're the ones that have been in the fight for years and years and years.
Well, we were, but we're about the last one standing now.
I know, right?
From my understanding, I think last time we talked, Ted, was somewhere around 8,500 patients or something that are in.
Yeah, we're getting close to 8,700 now.
Yeah,
and those numbers should count. Those numbers should count. Those 8,700 people should count. And that's what bothers me so much about this, is that they're not looking at the number of people that actually access for medical need. They're not looking at that. So these people just don't count, and that's not right.
Will their input count?
We can fill out the consultations.
You've dealt with the government for this over the years, submitted stuff. You're submitting documentation for this review as well, correct?
Yeah, we're going to be putting in a pretty thorough response. We're going to make it public 1 week before the review is completed, so people can look at our answers and even cut and paste some of our answers to fill out the questionnaire themselves, or and then the last week I'm going to be going on a bit of a media blitzkrieg and more of the mainstream media, trying to get some press to pay attention to the fact that the review is concluding, and there are a lot of patients and people like myself that are wanting to save the medical marijuana program and improve it, rather than allowing it to be either removed or just stagnate as it is, because there are certain things about the medical marijuana program that are good, but there's a lot of other things that aren't, like the excise tax and stuff. So the medical marijuana program, should be saved, and but at the same time, we've got to worry about just keeping it alive, let alone improving it. But we'll see how it goes.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go, Tamara.
Right.
And
again, they're under eviction notice right now. Like,
yes,
the VCBC's got an eviction notice on top of all these other issues, right? And it just seems like, why? What are they doing?
Why?
Like that is so bad that is why? Like what is the purpose in this? And as you go back, 8,500 people, 87 he said. So 8,700 people is a lot of people that cannot access and will not be able to access what they need, right?
The products, the
it's kind of heartbreaking.
Products, the knowledge, so much more,
right? And that's kind of disturbing to think that you can't.
Like even just being someplace to go, sometimes patients can lead lonely, quiet lives, and it's a spot for them to get out with like-minded people to spend some time socializing. A lot of us found that with the vapor lounges when they were here in Ontario. Same thing. So, but
that's something that's been a huge loss.
We see Ted all the time. Go. So he shared some personal information there as far as his, with his health and that. And like I said, we said, the fight continues for patients in their gardens. We don't want to see patients all of a sudden there's no medical program, and next thing you know, there's only growing 4 plants, and that would suck. And they don't. Some people say,
especially when we know that the cost of
it's
and the milligram, that's the thing. Like even if they're accessing legal cannabis, like is it the milligrams and the dosage they need because of limitations, right? Like even we'll go to one of our other former guests, like they're now battling the fact that the compassion levels for Sophie's Medicine has gone from 40% to 20% saving, which is nothing. It's just up their medication limits. But is she really getting the required amount that she needs? Because the milligrams are so low, because they're picking from the legal market. And that is no fault of their own, because they don't have any other choice. But again, and then to have that compassionate pricing keep changing for being so limited on the percentage of discount. But again, is she getting what is she getting enough of it? Because the milligrams are at 10 milligram max.
Low. Well, we had a comment during that segment from Irene Donahue, and she says that, but if you have a 10 gram plus authorization, it's still not affordable for everyone to buy from a dispensary. Now,
no, it's
I'm not sure what she was coming. Yeah, I don't know what was coming up at that time when she brought that up, but yeah, it's not affordable for people to buy from a dispensary. Just even that people say, well, it's so cheap. Like Ted's talking about $60 ounces. I know around here I've seen signs for $100 ounces from the legal stores. Well, a patient who uses an ounce a week, there's $400 a month. Well, do patients have $400 a month to spend on buying cannabis? There's patients there that can grow it for $400.
Most of them don't. Because if they're living on disability, there's absolutely not. No, and the thing is, with the price of groceries and stuff now, people living on disability where it's barely enough to cover just their rent, never mind their electricity and their food, there's no way somebody has $400 extra. I don't. And we both work. I don't.
No. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm so glad that being able to got the opportunity to be able to grow outside, where at least it helps with the costs of doing so. All right. Up next, we've got Dana Larsen. Dana was on the show early in the year. During that time, we were talking about cannabis legalization as well as drug testing. I got a little more than 10 minutes here, so I've cut it into 2 videos. So first we'll run the first half, which is on cannabis legalization. We'll maybe throw in a few comments, and then we'll run the second one. All right, here we go. Dana Larsen to the broadcast. Hello, Dana. How you doing?
I've almost sent my apologies for being late here. I really feel bad about this. You guys, I was just doing another interview with someone else, and I got carried away. I looked at the clock. Oh my God, we've been talking for 2 hours. I'm late for this thing. I'm at the cafe working today, so I'm just in my back office here, but things are good. Actually, let me just close this door.
Okay, go ahead.
See, I knew there was a reason that he was delayed.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm glad I just. Oh my God, I'm 15 minutes late. I ran in there, so we're good. I'm here now. Hopefully, you've been able to just keep the small talk going and do what you got to do before I get here. But
we did. We did the small talk. We told everybody that you were just delayed. You'd be along shortly. And then we're just reviewing the article that CBC had on your mushroom dispensary last week.
That was a good story. I was very happy with that, and it's definitely drawn a lot of attention. We got a lot. We've been we were busy before, but we're really busy now. And it's funny when they do these things, because there's other mushroom dispensaries in Vancouver as well, and they talk to the police, they talk to the other dispensaries, they talk to the city, and I'm the only one who would go on camera. No one from the city will go on camera. None of the cops want to go on camera. Definitely none of one of the other dispensary people want to go on camera. So I'm the only one, which I like that role. I'm happy to be on camera. I feel comfortable there. But, it's interesting that they can't, no one wants to talk to the media about this except for me.
Because they don't want to bring attention to themselves, right? But that doesn't bring any awareness. And you want to bring awareness to the public about, the benefits of what psilocybin can do too, and that you're there and it's available for patients that want to use it, right? And that's what we're supposed to do, bring awareness. So
I think that being public is a form of protection too. I think that if people know that you're there, you draw attention to that, then they get upset when something bad happens to you, and you're able to create that kind of community. But each to their own. I don't necessarily think everybody has to go on camera all the time. I like having that role, but it is interesting how that plays out. That they got the TheraSil guys, but they're working within the system, right? So they came on, and they're doing great work in Victoria also with the terminally ill patients, right? But
right here.
It's been good. That story was really good, and I expect there's going to be more discussion around this kind of stuff in the mainstream media.
Has that story brought you any unwanted attention?
I mean, not really. We're pretty good. Like, we're going to have some issues with the city at some point, I think. But we do have a business license, right? We carefully.
Phone's ringing.
Okay, sorry, getting rid of that. We opened as a cafe and kind of got our business license, and then we added the mushrooms afterwards. So we kind of approached it in that certain way. Sorry, I'm getting calls here while I'm doing stuff.
Sounds like the lounges in Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto, some of them set up as like with a restaurant.
Like with the city stuff, we're not going to have the cops coming and raid us or anything like that, right? Luckily in Vancouver, that is a very, very unlikely situation. I wouldn't say never, you never know, not 100%, but I'd say it's pretty unlikely, right? But what I think is likely is them saying, well, you don't have a license to sell mushrooms, that's not allowed, or that some bureaucratic type stuff, we're going to fine you or whatever, then you go to court. But that kind of stuff can take like a long time to play out, right? And certainly we'd be in no hurry either. So, I think we got a couple of years here at least, and then we see how things go after that. But within a year, there's going to be 50 places in the city also, right? There's, I think, 4 or 5 now. And you get the first few, testing the waters. People are like, oh, they're okay. It's been a while. I could do this too. And I think
you're not causing any disturbance within the communities where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's kind of like with cannabis. It started with, one seed, and then it just kind of bloomed into,
Yeah, it's, there's a lot of back and forth. I was just talking to somebody else doing an interview talking about some of these things. And I mean, to me, the greatest part of cannabis legalization is that 60,000 Canadians aren't being arrested each year for marijuana possession. The number's still bigger than 0, and it should be 0. There still are some arrests, but it's dropped, 99%, right? And that's great. The challenges with legalization are more about how many plants you're allowed to grow, who's allowed to sell it, how it's taxed, that it's still very expensive, that there's limits on potency. Those kind of stigmas and aspects are still part of it. Like legalization, it's like it creates a new ground floor that we can then work from, right? So okay, you're allowed to grow 4 plants per household. Now, that's a ridiculously low number. It should be much bigger. But getting from 0 plants to 4 plants is an immense accomplishment, and it's never going to be less than 4 plants. They're not going to make it 3 at some point. I know a few provinces are trying to stop any plants, but ultimately that number is only going to get bigger over time. Probably not big enough and fast enough for our preference, but it creates a new basis. And the same with all these other penalties that are there, right?
Nothing moved fast enough.
Yeah, it's obviously we want it to be better, but I think we can sometimes get hung up that we didn't get what we wanted, and it sucks, and legalization is bad. And I mean, there are flaws, and we do have to approach it, but it's also a huge victory for us. In any other movement, we didn't go from homosexuality being criminalized to gay marriage in one jump. It took a lot of steps, a lot of intermediate points, this and that. And same with any other, racial equality. We didn't end slavery and immediately go to, and we're still dealing with these things. We still have these issues going on. And it takes a long time, right? So, but it's going to happen in steps. And I think taking a victory lap, that legalization was a very big step, hugely important, and really, Canada at the federal level, we have the best, most tolerant marijuana laws in the world. Some American states have it better at the state level, but there's no country with more open cannabis laws than Canada right now. And so that's pretty good. And hopefully other countries will pass better ones, and then we can improve our laws. And, it's important to recognize that what we have accomplished.
Our rallies, all that we've held over the years, there's no reason to stop them because there's always needs to improve the system.
No, I agree. And when we had, 420 obviously got paused for other reasons than that. But the first big one we did after legalization, people were like, "Well, it's legal now. Don't you want to stop?" And I was like, "Well, when we legalize gay marriage, does that mean the Pride Parade stops?" No, that's ridiculous. In fact,
it's celebration.
If it was legal, there'd be more cannabis events and more things going on, not less. And certainly, there's a lot to complain about, a lot to protest, and a lot to celebrate. And 420, our cannabis community should be able to do all those things. But this idea that, it's legal now, so shut up and go home. I'm like, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be, it's legal now, so here's a permit, and maybe here's a grant to help you put on
Yeah.
your event because we support your community or whatever, right? That's really what the spirit of legalization should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go, Tamara. There's the first part of Dana's interview. I forgot to mention the mushroom end of things with the dispensary and all that before we went into that segment. So, but it was good to hear. And as far like he's still operating, as I know through doing the news that they're opening in Toronto, they're opening in Hamilton. You know, maybe not Dana stores, but other mushroom stores are opening. And he mentions like more of them are going in Vancouver, and I'm sure they have.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's something that's I mean they're talking about it on mainstream TV. Like there's been several news documentaries that have come out in the last few months about and patients fighting for their rights to use psilocybin for treatment for mental health, and clinics that have opened, and you know what I mean. So there, psilocybin, psychedelics. There's a door opening. So again, bureaucracy, but in British Columbia now, we start the new program out here for decriminalization of all small amounts of hard drugs.
Right.
So we are now going into this new 3-year program where small amounts of narcotics, from opioid to fentanyl to crack to meth to everything, is decriminalized. You can carry small amounts and not get charged.
Well, for those people who are doing that, Dana offers a service, and maybe we should get into that. That's the second part of Dana's video. So here we go.
Get your drugs tested.
Exactly. Yeah. Get your drugs tested.
Yeah. And I'm really happy to see too that things are moving forward with harm reduction in Vancouver with the safe drug supplies and stuff. We were talking about getting your drugs tested too before you joined us, and how much respect I have for you for doing that because of my daughter as well. I've got a daughter that's has addiction problems, but I know you do a lot of testing, right?
I'm very proud of our Get Your Drugs Tested program. Right, we've just hit our 25,000th drug that we've analyzed.
Wow, nice.
They're in a searchable database, so you can look at all the any kind of all the cocaine that did have fentanyl, all the cocaine that had this thing, and all the heroin that whatever. You can really break it down and get quite interesting results. And I think it's a really useful service, and one that I wish was being offered more by provincial governments and by the health authorities. We just have 2 of these machines. It's called an FTIR machine, and it's basically shines an infrared laser at a very small sample of the drug, and then it analyzes the light spectrum that comes out and compares that to a massive database of substances, and it can tell what's in there. For fentanyl, sometimes the amount can be so low but still active that we will also use test strips to detect fentanyl if it doesn't show up, just to be sure we didn't miss any, because it can be in very low quantities. But sometimes it's about finding fentanyl and preventing a death. Other times it's just about preventing a bad drug experience. Someone who's expecting to buy MDMA and they get MDA instead. Well, they're kind of similar, but they're also really different in a lot of ways, and you don't really want to substitute one for the other. Or you get weird stuff. Like one time someone brought in what they thought was MDMA. It was actually methamphetamine mixed with Viagra. So you get, MDMA actually has kind of a rushing, energizing effect to it, but it's also got a very emotional kind of heart chakra opening, connectedness kind of thing, which can be sexual, but is more sort of, it's not, but they're trying to meet that with, well, you get some energy from the meth and you get some horniness from this Viagra, and that's kind of our street combination, right? And it may not, they're going to kill you, but it's not what you're looking for, right? So knowing what you're getting, sometimes it's about getting a death. Sometimes, knowing somebody's making their own weird combinations of things to try to sell, right? And sometimes you just find out, okay, it is what I expected. Now I can, when I'm taken, I can feel confident, not start having panic attacks halfway through. Was it what I thought it was? Oh shit, maybe I got something else, And so there's a lot of those factors. And we get people we don't ask people if they're a dealer or not. We get people coming in who I'm pretty sure are dealers. They're bringing in 10 samples to test that are all marked, cataloged. And dealers don't always know what they're selling either. They're buying from one person, they're breaking it down, they're selling it to someone else. Most dealers, I think, want to provide quality products to their customers at a good price. It's a business, and sometimes people have different motivations, but a lot of drug dealers and cannabis sellers and merchants of whatever, they enjoy these things. They think they should be available, and they want to offer good stuff, but they don't have the ability to test it themselves. So them coming down, it creates accountability in the drug chain that wasn't there before. Not everyone can go back to their dealer and go, "Hey, this wasn't what you said it was," but some of them can.
Yeah.
You can definitely not go back.
There you go, Tamara. Dana, and the importance of testing your drugs, and boy, he hits it right on the nose with what he said during that. The reasons
people
why.
are dying, and that
Yeah.
but like the bottom line is people are dying, and they're dying because the drugs aren't really drugs, they're poison and the fentanyl. So that's why it's a good thing that they have this service that's available. But that's in the downtown east side. No, fortunately, Cranbrook has one as well. We have Anchors here that does the same drug testing. They have the same machine that Dana has at his facility, because Shambhala bought one, because those machines are $45,000 a piece.
Oh, yeah.
They're
They're not cheap.
Oh yeah, no. So we've got one here in Cranbrook. So you can go into Anchors, and they've got trucks, just strips and all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
Let's hope it's helping. All right, time for us to take a break. You're watching the Pace Radio Show's Year in Review. We are live here at paceradio.net.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more. We've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you watching television on Roku, Fire, maybe an Apple TV or even Chromecast? If you are, then download the Boxcast app and search for CBG TV.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hello, welcome back to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net. Tonight on the program, Tamara and I are talking about some of the guests that we've had over the last year. And I see Tamara's made it back. Just jumped in.
Sorry. I had to go chase some animals out of the kitchen. Sorry.
Okay. All right. It's you got back just in time. You're good. You're good. You good. All right. Now, one of our guests that we had on earlier this year was a gentleman by the name of Paul Bullock. I met Paul back in the 2010 Treating Yourself Expo. So there's a dozen years ago. Met him personally there. He was an award-winning poet. I'm going to say he's a poet, and there's another word I'm looking for it. A word speaker or something like that. But he did such a good job. He won a American Music marijuana. Yeah, medical. Oh no, I'll get it right. The American Music Marijuana Awards. There we go. And see what happens between
That's a
video.
mouthful, though.
It
Medical
is.
marijuana
It is.
music awards, like that's like that's like a tongue toy. That's a twist. But that's not even fair.
So he won there, and so I hadn't heard from him in a long time. So I reached out to him and invited him onto the program. So we had an interesting talk with him. I really enjoyed it, and we got to hear some poems as well. I don't know if you remember them or
Yeah,
not.
I do, and he was a real character. He was
Yeah.
fun. He was a fun guest. Yeah, absolutely.
So what I've got here is basically how he got started in the in the poetry and the cannabis, and we're also going to hear his award-winning and most requested poem during this segment. So see you on the other side in about 7 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go from the weather to finding out more about Paul Bullock?
Well, let's do that.
Let's do that. I always like to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
I can't recall whether you're a patient. I know what you were doing in 2010 and 2011. I knew what you're doing then. So
we'll back up even further.
Let's go back further. Exactly. What got you involved in cannabis? Let's look at it that way.
Okay. Well, I will start back in the Seychelles Islands, which is in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Africa. And I was a young man working there, and I was not smoking, but I was introduced to a man who I worked with, and he scored some West African or East African ganja. And I began to smoke in the Seychelles on a regular basis. And then when I came home, I continued to smoke. My jump into activism started with the opportunity to get on stage in Lubbock, Texas, with the musicians here. We have a great court of music heritage here with Buddy Holly, and I could name on. But so I became part of that scene, and the musicians would ask me up to do poetry during their break times, and I was given 5 or 10 minutes to entertain drunk people. And so I had to come up with what I call bar room poetry, and so cannabis was included in the bar room poetry, and that's how I got started in the activism part of cannabis.
Being invited on stage, you're probably doing an important role for those bands by filling in time when they got set up, or
yeah, there was the occasion that somebody might break a guitar string, and as they realized they were going to be fooling with their guitar string, they would ask, "Is Paul Bullock in the audience?" And would you please come up here and cover for me while I change my string? That happened occasionally. But the audiences were very receptive, and it encouraged me to continue, and it caught on, and I began to travel. I was around a woman by the name of Karen Abrams, who advised me to check out the Global Marijuana Music Awards, and that they had just that year included a poetry section for award. And she advised me to send my poetry into the contest. I did, and I won with a poem called Carpool Mom. And
well, would you mind?
Sure, I'll do Carpool. Okay.
All right, let's hear it. I'll put you up there. There you go.
Okay, this was the 2005 entry that won for Global Marijuana Music Awards poetry. She's a carpool mom, a Revlon blonde, and she thinks that she's so real. So then why does she conceal the color of her hair and wear fake fingernails and tell rumors of a boob job too? So who's she trying to fool? The other moms that drive the pool? Or maybe just herself, because her mental health is what keeps her looking young, and she just turned 41, has 2 daughters and a son, and a husband, his name's Tom. And she's a carpool mom, sports some no drug bumper sticker on the bumper of her van. She's got Prozac in her purse and a cigarette in her hand. Drinks black coffee every morning, gin and tonic after dark. Keeps her sleepies in the nightstand, loves her husband. He's a narc, and she's a carpool mom. Chaperoned the 9th grade prom. Wore a ribbon on her dress that says that she protests the use of drugs like crack and cannabis, because to her, they're both the same. And she pops a pill into her brain. Who let her in this game anyway? They've told her what to say, and besides, her Valium keep her calm. And she's a carpool mom with diet pills clenched in her palm, and with that tight clenched fist insists drug users should be jailed, denied bail, nailed to the cross. That'll show them who's the boss. Toss away the key, then maybe they'll see that we mean business. And she witnesses at her church. She can recite every single verse of chapter 23, book of Psalms. And she's a carpool mom, a real human time bomb in this war on drugs. She serves icy mugs of beer and cheery wine coolers with fruity flavors. Takes some pills her neighbor gave her, cures whatever ails her. She doesn't even know where they come from. And she's a carpool mom. Any slight doldrum requires a quick pick-me-up, a cup of caffeine in between drags of nicotine. Give her hands something to do. And she still hasn't got a clue that she's a drug user too. So my question is the same. Who let her in this game anyway? And don't say shame on you and tell me to stay calm when there are hypocrites out there like the carpool mom. That's it.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely fabulous. Yeah. Terrific. So true, though. It's absolute damn truth, right?
Oh, yes.
That's my most requested, and I call it a signature poem for me in my town. You know, you have to understand, we're in a town of about 250,000 people. And I started doing this in the 80s or 90s. So I have quite a reputation, and that poem is the most requested of all the poems that I do.
All right, I gotta give him another applause for that for that poem. Oh.
The carpool mom. I think that's one of the best things I've ever heard, ever.
It's bang on. It's so right, you know.
Right?
And a lot of his poems have got they're educational, or they're informative or whatever. And he's done a fantastic job. And 2023. I'm sure I'll probably get him to come back on again. I know throughout that broadcast with him, I believe he did like 3 poems during that, and I could have ran probably all 3 poems, and then that's what it comes down to. Like, you gotta pick. There's just so much time in a show, right? Like, I'm already running for longer than what I had scheduled, so. But it's no, it's good.
This is just live TV or live stream or live whatever, right? It just has to.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta get my thing. So yeah, it was good to get caught up with him. You saw in the video, he was holding a book in his hand, and he's written children's books. Is what he's done, and he goes to markets and love the poetry, man. So
Yeah,
cannabis related, cannabis related. It's like country music to me. All right, let's see. We also had Alison Myrden on this year as well. And she was talking about what did we talk to her about? We talked old times, drug legalization, women in prohibition, and not in this segment, but I know during that broadcast we were also talking about her license, trying to get her license for the psilocybin as well.
well, she's been fighting for a few years for that, and that's something that I think, like I said, it shouldn't. Again, progress has been made for cannabis, but psilocybin is a whole different ball of wax because of the different levels of euphoric.
Yeah.
Hyper, or the fact that you can hallucinate, and different levels of high, right?
Yeah. All right, here we go. Here's our interview with Alison Myrden. But I think we should get our guest in here. Yes, I see the yes there. Goes you shaking your head as you inhale.
Yeah. Long time cannabis, everything, drug harm reduction, law enforcement against prohibition. Where do you start with Alison? Where do you start?
Cannabis rallies, speaking publicly, newspapers, TVs, patients access, on and on and go. So time to bring her in. We'd like to welcome Alison Myrden to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Alison.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Great, thanks. How are you guys?
Good.
It's good to see you.
Thank you so much, by the way. Those are really sweet words, you guys. Thank you.
Well, you're an icon and you are a legend, whether you want to admit it or not. But like I said, the first person when I first started getting going on this, right back in 2007, who was one of the first people I reached out to. She's sitting right in front of you. And that's who kind of guided and mentored me too, along with, West Coasters. And then there was Keith and Debbie Fagan in Calgary. But Alison was one of the very first people that I connected with. Yeah.
And it's always good to connect with people, bring people back into the picture who've been here, 2 decades.
I know.
Fighting for patients' access. Some people don't even, they just think, medical cannabis has been there for quite a while. Well, there was years there, year 2000.
Was a pioneer. It was a Hitscape case that Alison was involved in, her and Debbie Stultz-Giffen, that really made the pivot towards getting medical exemptions for patients. And Hillary Black, yes, hi, Deb. Deb's here. She's here. Same here, Hillary Black.
There we go. There you go. Message from Deb.
Yeah. Hi, Deb.
Right? So again, these are pioneer women that have stood up, and fought for cannabis legalization. I'm not saying there's no men, but we've got pioneering women within this movement that have really made the change.
Yeah, well, there you go. As Deb mentions there, she brings up Hillary Black as well.
Hillary Black, Riel Kapler, like Lisa Kirkman. We can go back to all these women that have stood up and fought for cannabis prohibition to end. And now they're still fighting for psilocybin and other drug, all drugs should be legalized. Every last one of them. The only way we're going to get out of this drug war is to actually regulate and make sure that there's access for everybody. And whether you like that or not, it's not a choice about you. It's not about you when it comes down to harm reduction. It's about taking it back for the people that suffer with it, right? Like, quit everybody putting their judgy, comments and stuff. And it's about me. It's about it's about your uncomfort with it. And if it's not causing anybody else harm, then why should it bother you? I mean, if they want to harm themselves, which we know that these drugs aren't good. Opioid crisis is one of the worst ones.
Well, look what it's caused.
It's out of control.
Yeah, well, Alison, I know when you were with the Pace Radio Show there in those early years, you were always saying, about legalizing, the other drugs, other than just cannabis.
I've never changed my path, Al, for almost 30 years, if not more. All I wanted to do when I was a corrections officer, I could see the problems with drugs with young offenders when I was working with them. The kids were always kind of the ones that all the adults use as sort of scapegoats to kind of run their drugs and get their charges and do everything bad, because young offenders, their records were erased at the age of 18. So adults knew way back then that they were good drug runners. And what the kids didn't know was that what they were doing was not right, even though they thought at some point that it was going to be very lucrative. It's going to be exactly what they wanted. It ended up being exactly the opposite and getting them a lot of them in trouble. So what I'd done from the beginning, Al and Tamara, when I was a corrections officer way back when in the 1990s, early 1990s, I was screaming in court 5 days a week. Every time there was a young offender sentence for trafficking or whatever it was involving an illegal substance, I would literally stand up and say, "But Your Honor, drugs are a health issue and do not belong in a court of law." And the judge every time would slam their gavel down and say, "Be quiet, I'm going to charge you with contempt of court." And then I look around the courtroom and all the officers and everybody chuckling and winking at me and thumbing up, And I'm like, I never, ever stopped for the last 34 years I've been doing this, Al, since I've been with Gary before I knew Gary. And I've been with Gary 34 years. So I've been fighting a long time. It does not make sense to me at all.
I agree.
No, you can't arrest your way out of that problem. You can't be putting people in jail for it. And yeah, it doesn't.
The worst part about it with the jail systems now too, like they take away everything, including their tobacco. So tobacco is a huge physical addiction too, right? And the federal system has now made it so when you enter into their system, you're cut out of caffeine, you're cut out of tobacco. Never mind the drug of choice that you're addicted to. And here's the thing with the opioid: 72 hours, your body's addicted to it. So when is that become a choice? After you've been using after 72 hours, whether you want to stop or not, your body makes you sick. So when they say that drug addiction is not a choice, it really isn't a choice. Yes, having to take it. Why the doctors are cutting people off in the hospital, if they do give them anything, within 48 hours before they leave the hospital, because they don't want to kick them out physically addicted to the opioid because it takes so little time with it.
I just wanted to say quickly, sorry, Al, at the beginning of the year, I was on probably 1,000 more milligrams of morphine a day than I am now. And I take a lot of morphine every day. And I literally, because of what Tamara just said, because of the opioid crisis, the doctors in Health Canada panicked and cut every single patient in Canada who was on opioids the way I am immediately, if not in half, then by more than half. And literally, I went through heck for like 8 months. I was so sick. And I kept saying, I know this is for the best. I know this is for the best to get off the Dilaudid and the morphine. But at the same time, I have nothing more for the pain in my face. And until I can get access to psilocybin, which again was something I mentioned online today, it's been 212 days today.
I saw that post. Yes.
Yeah, since my lawyer submitted my paperwork for a Section 56, and all I'm asking for is the right to consume and grow my own. Nothing more, just like cannabis, and I don't understand what the problem is.
No, I don't either, and I don't either.
And the fact that patients still need help, and that's the biggest thing. We saw this coming from the U.S. years ago, and they all warned us because they were all getting the prescriptions cut then. So I knew it was coming from all the, chat rooms and forums I was in over the last number of years. But I also was not expecting the huge cut that I did get in my medication. So, and that again, I don't blame my doctors because my doctors are better than most doctors. But at the same time, how can Health Canada and the government, the Canadian government, do this to patients, like you said, who are suffering and or dying?
Right.
Yeah. Well,
it's the government. It's the colleges and physicians that are putting the pressure on the doctors to threaten him with licensing. So is that coming from Health Canada? Where is that coming, or is that coming from the head of the College of Physicians?
There we go. Part of our interview with Alison Myrden, talking about legalizing all drugs and the opiate situation, reduction to the patients, so on and so forth, old times as well.
Right. Yeah, and like we were just saying, that BC is trying this 3-year program with the small amounts. So we'll see how that goes. Like, a lot of people aren't happy about it. Like, and it's not like they're getting free drugs. They're just decriminalizing. So if you get caught with 3.5 grams, you're not going to be charged. It's not like they're giving away free drugs.
From my understanding, there was also some groups that were they're happy that they got what they received, but they had requested something about almost twice as much than what was approved. So they wanted to decriminalize a little bit more than what they ended up getting. But like you say, it's a start, and hopefully it helps some people. So, all right. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we got one more guest that we're going to do, and we'll be right back shortly. You're watching the Pace Radio Show's 2022 Year in Review. We'll see you in about 3 minutes.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Welcome back. You're watching the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at paceradio.net, and tonight in the program, Tamara and I are talking about some of the guests that we've had over the last year. And at the beginning of the broadcast, we decided that there were so many, we're just going to do another show next week too as well.
Right. Well, it is. There's just like I said, too many. You don't want to leave anybody behind.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Just so I'm watching our time here and stuff, in order to make sure we get everything in. So, next up is the Jones family, Kaylee and Nick and Sophie Jones. Maybe I'll let you talk a bit about them, and then we'll run the video. We have 2 video clips. Before cannabis video clip, and we have an after cannabis
Well,
clip.
Kaylee does a really good job of introducing them. And Sophie's a little girl that has some disabilities, and they've been struggling with the cost of her medicine. And we were just kind of talking about this at the beginning of the show as well, that the compassionate pricing that the licensed production that they get from has now, it was 40% compassionate pricing. Now it's only 20% discount. It's almost $775 a month just for her to get her medication. And then again, the milligrams, because of the legal limitations, is she getting enough? And I mentioned that before too. So they're a struggling family with, young family with 3 little girls. Sophie being the oldest, one also with a disability that needs, of course, more attention, more care, which costs more money. So it's very difficult for them to be able to cover the cost of everything. So if anybody can donate, I'd appreciate that too. So yeah, and then again, the clips pretty much will give you a rundown of exactly what's going on in their lives.
Correct. All right, here we go. Kaylee and Nick Jones.
And we need to push for children's health. And this is about the kids that need the medicine, right? And we still are with the medical program back and forth, and the cost and the affordability. And that's a big thing for this family. So I want to make sure that the rest of the community is being introduced, and they want to introduce them to our community so that we can help them.
All right, here we go. Here's we'd like to welcome Kaylee and Nick Jones to the Pace Radio Show. Welcome, Kaylee and Nick. How you doing?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad.
We want to introduce you guys to the rest of the community too. So Nick and Kaylee I've known them for quite some time, but the reason why we brought them here is because they have a daughter that has got some health issues. So I'm going to let you guys tell everybody what goes on with Sophie, what she suffers from, her epilepsy, her seizures, and just introduce yourselves to the community.
So Sophie is 6 years old. She was diagnosed around 5.5 months old. She's got a rare chromosome deletion. So she's got a microdeletion on chromosome 19. It goes by Milan syndrome. And then she's also got an NFIX gene missing and a CACA1. I forget that one, but it's like another epilepsy. A life-threatening epilepsy. So we started, she started having seizures around 3 years old. She has low muscle tone. She has global development delay. She has ataxia, hemiplegic migraines, and autism. But she's an amazing, happy-go-lucky girl.
Definitely the happiest girl you ever meet.
She is loves music, loves pulling wheelies.
Extremely affectionate.
she's an amazing little girl. Yeah. So she started with her epilepsy around 3 years old. We decided.
We were talking to the neurologists, and they got us to. I can't remember what the first pharmaceutical drug they got us to try.
So
it was Clobazam.
Yeah, it was Clobazam. So we were on Clobazam for a while, and she started breaking out in hives, red rash, and it wasn't stopping her clusters. So the clusters were coming, and they were coming in 5 minutes. They weren't stopping until we gave her a rescue med. And the rescue meds were taking her out for probably the whole day.
They were usually Valium or something, and it would just knock her out the whole. She'd be a zombie for 24 hours, basically.
Yeah,
she's basically seizing uncontrollably.
Yeah, Yeah, like we'd take her in, and it was like her heart rate would drop, and then she'd come out of it, and then she'd freak out for a bit, and then she'd finally calm down, and then it would just go through it again and again until usually we gave her a medication. And
yeah, it wouldn't stop until we gave her a rescue med.
Yeah.
And then they tried her on triliptol, I think it was, and then same thing. It was really bad anger issues on that one.
She'd just get rage fits, just like out of nowhere, and like you wouldn't be able to calm her down. Where like usually she's super happy. If she does get worked up, you can calm her down with like a song or something. Like she was, and like she
biting. I'm pretty sure that was where she was biting a lot. She was like really angry, really aggressive.
No balance, like really huge lack of balance. Like if you'd sit her down, it was
no appetite.
Yeah, which is she's always got a huge. She can almost out eat me, and and she was barely eating on the medications. Like, yeah.
And then there was also another one. We also tried. There was Clozam, triliptol, and then Keppra. So we tried Keppra last, and then that one she had off balance issues. Christmas Day. We were in hospital because she set herself off balancing, caused herself to have a seizure.
Yeah, she smashed her head off the floor.
Sounds like she's actually.
You
can do that. Yeah, so she fell back and hit her head Christmas Day. So we decided that these weren't working. They were still coming in clusters, and we were still having to administer a rescue med for her to stop seizing. We were traveling by ambulance 2 to 3 times a week. Nick was working in the city. He was coming home every time she was going to the hospital.
It's usually like 2 hours away.
I was happy to call in every time. I was because she was seizing.
Oh yeah.
Nobody could help her. I had to come home, rushing home from taking care of people. I had to call ambulance while my mom was taking care of her to come back to be with them, to administer a rescue med, and then to get her to the hospital for him to meet us there. Yeah. They finally let us try CBD oil.
They really didn't want to, but we were lucky to have the neurologist we did in a way, because like we didn't feel right just doing it on our own, because didn't want anybody coming after us saying we were doing the wrong thing. And then
so you talked to the doctor about it.
Yeah, and he finally said, like, you guys, I guess we started to get a little worked up. Like, look, we've tried 3 different ones and it's not working. I mean, we're both we've been kind of down the cannabis road, and we know that it's not as harmful as they said it was. So we're like, let us try. It's like, you're her parents, so like, let's try it. And so we did.
There you go, Tamara. That's That's
and again, it's back to the affordability, and I don't know how we can change that. Other than I know that there are some insurance companies that if you are buying, you have to have that insurance, right? You have to be covered by said whatever insurance company,
Well, look what she was going through.
Yeah,
3 different medications at times. Like they mentioned the violence, zombie. It was just it like such a young child having to go through that is just
right. And the young parents having to deal with it too. Like, I mean, it's not like they're in their 40s; they're in their 20s too. So again, young parents, their first child, trying to muddle through being first-time parents and then having the challenge of having a first-time child that's got all these disabilities and having to fight to get her exactly what she needs. And now she doesn't take any pharmaceuticals. And now they just feed her the oil that they get from this licensed production. But again, the cost has gone up to, it might as well be $1,000 a month.
Might as well be. Exactly. All right, let's get into part 2 of this interview. First part, as you heard, got a history, lowdown on the whole situation and what they went through, and they had talked to the doctor about using cannabis. There we go.
We started working it up until we found it really affecting her seizures. And it got to the point where, I mean, yeah, he told us that she was on the highest dose of any kid, I think, in Canada for his studies anyway, for what he could look at. And, but it's worked. I mean, she doesn't.
They don't come in clusters.
No, if she has a seizure.
Rescue med.
Yeah.
I can see how a doctor can,
right?
maybe a doctor doesn't.
And the quality
have
of life she has, right? And the quality of life, like she's out running around in her little wheelchair, and she's out there outside, and she's like, she is like, it's like night and day, right? And that's the thing. Like I think Maya was up to almost like 12,000 milligrams of like high THC. Like they weren't giving her CBD. Maya was taking a combination of both. Sean would actually like extract everything that they grew himself too, as well, right? With CO too. Like they were doing everything at home because they whatever. But Maya was on a really, really strong dose. But there's a difference between her affliction and Sophie. Sophie's moving and talkable and is reactive. Maya was that way to a point, but not. It's non-comparable. Like it's just not comparable. But in hindsight, the difference of the night and day between pharmaceuticals and cannabis.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
She's quality of life right now.
She's literally going weeks now, not napping.
I haven't seen I don't know, maybe one a year where she has a bit of convulsions. Not like nothing like she was. Like it was.
They don't even last a minute now.
Yeah, right? And it's usually like an absent seizure kind of.
Well, it's greatly reduced them, and it's reduced the frequency of them.
Yeah,
I can see. Like I can understand some. There's doctors out there that are hesitant. Even my own doctor was hesitant. But when it comes to the child, like Sophie, who's going through all these seizures and taking all these medications and these emergency drugs in order to save her life.
Yeah.
And they're worried about the harm that cannabis is going to do.
Right.
Yeah. Her neurologist was like, well, it could make it worse. I was like, but it could make it better.
Yeah.
And she's proof. Like she is total proof. Like these kids are proof. And I don't understand. Like I hope that your doctor is documenting this.
Yeah.
Because in reality, this is a case study. This is him watching her go from all 3 pharmaceuticals doing nothing to her now taking whatever, milligrams of THC, CBD, whatever you're giving her now, to going weeks without a seizure, right?
I think we're in the healthcare crisis in Nova Scotia. So I mean, not only we were lucky to get her on CBD oil at the time we did because we had the paramedic crisis. Like we had next to no paramedics and no ambulances. And then not only that, but our neurologist retired, and then we got one, and then she retired, and now I think IWK's down to 1.
I think they've got,
or they might have hired one other one.
2 or 3 neurologists for the whole Maritimes, and it's only part-time.
Yeah, so it's we have there's a few. We're kind of tied in now to the Milan community, and we're trying to get more tied into that so they can do more, more more research into that kind of.
Well, that's exactly what is needed, though. For people to be open about it, right? And the thing with it is, now that the legalities are the way they are, and but being a patient too, it's always been really difficult for kids, right? Even now, it's still difficult for kids to get anybody on, any doctor on board for anybody under the age of 18 is still super difficult, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that you guys are willing to, and it was, that we need people to speak out. We need people to talk about what they're going through. And so we can all fight and start talking to the people that we need to talk to, because this needs to go across Canada. There should be a program for kids, period.
Yeah. If we weren't as open-minded and as determined as we were, it's just like somebody like Sophie could completely just stay having seizures multiple times a week and just being laid in bed. That's basically the life she was living. It was just almost every day she'd spend the full day in bed, and
zombied out.
Yeah, and now she's loving life with her sisters. So
Yeah, absolutely, and having a great time.
Doing donuts, like
She's got quite the appetite. She's got quite the energy. She's got quite the vocabulary coming.
Yeah.
She's
It's on her to tell things.
So great.
She loves music. She loves outdoors. Like,
And you mentioned that like she would get you know, mad, or I don't know whether you want to call it violent. I don't know whether there's some kids I've seen in documentaries over the years where they actually start to hurt themselves.
Yeah. Oh, she was getting to that point. Yeah. She'd like grind her teeth. She'd like,
She was actually hitting herself too, and we were told not to like address it, just to let her, like, because she kept doing it purposefully, and it was like, so stop, and they're like, no, just let her do it, because it's like, because the more you react to it, the more she's gonna do it.
Yeah.
But she finally stopped doing that. But
good, that's good, because this one documentary, the boy's name was Alex. And it wasn't until they got him onto cannabis that he changed his ways.
Yeah.
Because and when I read the the information that Tamara sent to me, you know, that's what I was thinking about, was about this Alex kid. And then when I see kids like this that go through things, it's always what about the children? Because they always look at what about the children and trying to protect them, but when it comes to to cannabis, why isn't it an option sooner? Like I can see where they
why
try
is
to
it always a last choice?
Yeah,
and we've been saying that for decades. Like, why is it not a first option for anybody?
Why isn't the research there? Why isn't the evidence, like us, there? You know what I mean? Why?
Right.
Is she still taking pharmaceutical medicines as well?
No. I mean, she takes Prevacid for acid reflux, but that's even questionable at this point. She took it when she was like a baby, like for the first few years, because she would get sick every once in a while, and we couldn't really tell why, so they figured it was acid reflux. But other than that, that's it. That and the CBD.
But they just keep shoving like pharmaceuticals at a baby. Like, she's 6. Like, here, let's write this up for, and like, seriously, like, some of the stuff we just have to wonder. Anti-seizure medication, like, that's like, what is that doing to the brain cells of, like,
it could cause lung failure. It could cause, like, there are so many things that even if we put her on the ketogenic diet, it was why would we do that? Like, she's thin as is. We want her to have an appetite. We want her eating. Like, we want her thriving.
Right. And that's what, that's what they've done with Kaylee too. They put her on this keto diet, and Cheryl's got to struggle and buy food and all these.
That was the thing. We would all have to do it, and she would have had to fast for,
I think it was like 24 hours, and then you had to be in hospital for like a week while they monitored her.
Yeah.
And then we had to transition it over. And if we missed it, she could have a seizure.
Yeah.
Like, if we messed it up.
If like we had a respite worker give her a snack that she wasn't supposed to have.
And the ratio or whatever it is.
Yeah. Like right now, whenever she wants, she eats us out of house and home.
She loves to eat. She's not a picky eater.
No, she out eats her sisters, and
well, that's what you have to wonder. Like, why would you want to limit what she eats? Like, why is it always like, why quality of life, right? Like, let everybody have quality of life. Why are you trying to shove pharmaceuticals and
definitely unknown syndrome like hers? You know what I mean? You literally don't know how long you're gonna get with her, so why not have the best possible life you can? So
right.
There you go. Kaylee, Nick, Sophie, I'll tell you, these stories are the ones that get me.
Yeah.
Kids that go through the suffering and then they get some cannabis and it changes their world. Like, how can people turn around and say cannabis isn't medicine? Like, these are kids, little kids. Like, they're not figuring out, they're faking things.
No. And that's the thing. It's not like it's a choice. It's not like this kid's gone and picked up a bong. This is something that their parents have decided to do. And, it's an oil that's basically administered like a medication. So it's totally different, and it's helping. So it's something that we need. Like again, like I keep saying, oh, I keep hearing myself and all these clips. We need to fight. We need to fight. But in reality, who are we fighting? Like, what's the next steps? Like, we've done this for so many years.
Yeah,
Health
well,
Canada
you gotta
needs to
think about
recognize cannabis as medicine. Once
let's
Health
go.
Canada recognizes cannabis as medicine, the fight's over.
Yeah, let's circle that back around to the very first interview that we showed tonight or discussed, and that was the one with Ted over question 5.2. Is the medical program necessary? You're telling me that you're going to be sending some parents' kids into a corner store to get some cannabis oil for them because there's no medical program, because they feel that a medical program can be served out of a storefront situation, and that's it. Like, no.
Even if it was a storefront situation,
Who
if
are
it
you
was somebody
talking
with the
to in
knowledge,
there? A bud tender with
they just need
kind of
the
knowledge?
knowledge. They just need to have the knowledge, but they need to change the limitations of dosing. 10 milligrams is not enough for anybody.
Yeah, they need to increase the strength of it.
And even like I said, so you get 10 milligrams, 10 milligrams, 10. Some people need 500 milligrams. How much money does that cost? We go back to affordability, but how much chocolate do you have to eat to be able to ingest that much?
Too much, man.
Yeah,
too much. Exactly. But I think that the more people who find out about when it comes to these kids, like I said, it's there. The proof is there. It's just you guys show them. All right. What do we got? We're at the bottom of the hour, so I've extended a little bit, but we should get going. Just so that we got the next show that's coming on behind us on CBG TV, late night sesh from KGL TV. We'll be broadcasting at 10 o'clock here, so
have to be mindful of our other shows.
What's that?
Have to be mindful of our other shows, which is
yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Because now there's like 16 shows throughout the week that run on CBG TV. So it's a one-stop spot where you can catch all kinds of new shows every week. So,
absolutely, more coming on all the time.
We got a couple messages, and they come from Sophie's mom. She says, she starts to laugh. You're probably like, what's going on, right? And she says, all this. Thank you guys for spreading awareness for Sophie again. You're welcome, Kaylee. Very welcome.
Absolutely. As much as you tell, like it takes, we've always said if you can change one person's mind, but one person tells another person that tells another person.
Right.
And it spreads. It's like a domino effect. So the more we keep talking about it, keeps raising awareness. And every time somebody hears about it, they're going to go and say, hey, man, like, you heard about this girl in Nova Scotia? Like, and again, 10 more people might find out. So you bet.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. More people who speak it up, speak about the situation, more people will learn. And, we all learn as patients off of each other's stories of patients. And the Jones family one is obviously a story that we're going to follow. We're going to have them back on in 2023 and see how Sophie is doing.
But I want you to check it out. And if you can, like I said, send them $5 even, because they really need to make sure that she maintains that level of medication. Yeah.
There was something that they were going to go out about all that type of stuff, but I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah, well, I'll keep it already posted on my page too. Anything I see, I'll share.
Yep, sounds good. All right, you got anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Nope, just Happy New Year to everybody, and we'll see you next week with some more reruns of our past guests, and enjoy your week. But yeah, Happy New Year, and hopefully 2023 brings you some good stuff.
And thank you to all our guests in the past year, and obviously more to come this year. So, and also thanks to our sponsors, the friendly folks at legacy420.com, I call them Canada's largest First Nations cannabis dispensary. If you've ever been there, you'll agree. And to the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, also to thank you to our guests over the year. As I mentioned, it was great interviewing them, and we look forward to hearing from them again in the future. Plus, a big thank you to you for watching or listening to our programs here. See you next week. Bye-bye. Oh, one last thing. Don't forget, tomorrow, psychedelic and cannabis news, educational news with Reverend Cindy and Glenn is on tomorrow. And Glenn's got a new location, but I'm not going to let the secret out. You have to watch it tomorrow to see what's going on. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.